Hi guys, it's Blackie and it's Thursday night. This will be the last Thursday night for 3 weeks because next week I'll be out at the land doing the Silver Wolf classes, and then the next week I'll be there at my gathering. So it'll be 3 weeks from tonight when I will be doing my next live. So just wanted to get in here and spend some time with y'all before I got to get out of here. Let me get my date on my calendar so I know what it's going to be when I get back. Okay, that and that. It will be the April the 18th will be my next live after this one. Good evening, Donald. How you doing? Hope y'all are having a good day. It's spring. Everything's beautiful out there. Randy, hello to Arkansas. How you doing? Jeff, good evening. To Maryland. George, hello. Oh, I got so much stuff I got to do. I got to get, I've got all this week's videos posted where my next Silver Wolf class that I'm doing will be posted tomorrow on Friday. And then the final episode of that will be this Sunday. I've got my episode for Percussion Revolver that's going to be going on Rumble for this Saturday. Then I have to have all of next week's videos shot, loaded, and ready to go before I leave, and then at least 2 of the next week's. So when I come back in on Sunday night, I don't have to immediately, So this is going to be so if you're asking questions or whatever, after next Wednesday, it's going to be a while before I respond to you because I'm going to be out of town. I will pop back in once or twice on my phone, but I don't have all of this on my phone. So, Mr. Johnny, good evening. 2020, hello. Play, how you doing? Donald, good evening. Good, you're going to be at the gathering. Awesome. Buck 112, hello to Rome. Gray Wolf, you out in the ice water. I got you. Chuck Miller, good evening. You ain't missed nothing. We're just getting started. Stephen, good morning to you, sir. Awesome, Jerry. Bushpot Coffee. Jonathan Frisbee, hello, brother. Looking forward to seeing you. I know it's a character flaw of me, but I never got addicted to coffee. I drink it occasionally. I do. But it's not something, man, I got to have. Now, my daddy was a 3-pot a day man, and I guess that's one of the reasons I just never got into it. I drink hot tea, hot cocoa, and occasionally coffee. But it's something I can do without, too. But I got family members. Forget it. If you ain't got a pot on when they wake up, life is just gone to hell right there. Chuck Miller, yes, bring your pop-up gathering. Go your pop-up camper to the gathering. Be just fine. Realizing we don't have any hookups. You got to bring your own water. I'm going to provide firewood. And there's the porta potty, and we're in discussion with whoever pumps the porta potty to get it pumped during the week to make sure. So other than that, but sure, bring it. Bring your pop-up. Donald, good evening. Oh, great. Well, 40 degrees in Melton. At least it's warmed up. It's spring come to the far north. Jeff Clay, hello to Missouri. Oh, yeah. Stephen, mom and dad went to a 90 coffee pot. I hear you. Oh, I've had friends that had coffee pots this big. I mean, those big old cowboy types, where they wanted a gallon at a time. So, James Singer, hello to Columbia, South Carolina. Jerry, thanks for posting the Silver Wolf class online for those that can't make it. Thanks for missing. Glad to do it. I will try to all along see if I can post something else all along. That's my goal, is to be able to throw a class out there every so often for free to give everybody, 1, to share the information, and 2, to spread the word a little bit. And as I understand it, now other instructors are starting to do silver wolf classes around the country. So once I get some confirmation, I've heard about one up in Illinois and Indiana, I think, that's doing some silver wolf classes. And so once I get some confirmation from him, make sure it's legit. I'm sure it will be, but make sure it's legit. I'll be glad to pass that along to you. You know, I'm not just about me. I'm about we. And I want the silver wolves to be taken care of. I want them to have the information. You know, it ain't got to come just from me. And so I want it to be something that's spread around. And I would love to see a lot of the big name schools offer silver wolf classes, you know, to help out, especially for the vets. You know, get them back in the woods, get them to enjoying it. That's what this is for. Gray wolf, yeah, if it ain't been used that long, it will be challenging. Captain Bart, hello to the Illinois River. Gordon, Blackie, did you have fun in Kentucky? I had a blast. I really enjoyed it up there. It's nice to get up in the mountains. It really is. I enjoyed it. Stacy, good evening. Yeah, Gray Wolf, the older you get, the less fun it is. Same thing down here. I mean, we are not fighting the snow, but other things. Trust me, whenever you are going up and down the river and you come up in what you think is a sandbar, and this happened to me last year, and it's a sandbar, right? So you pull up and you go to step out of the John boat and you go up to your hips in mud because it looks solid, but it wasn't. It's kind of a lot of air in there or whatever. And you got to rock and dig your way. It's like being up in waist deep snow trying to fight your way out. Yeah, it's so much fun. And whenever you're 60, it's not as much fun as it was when you were 6. I'm here to tell you. Hiram, good evening. Oh, cool. CF Martin. The Greenwood. Got it. Ronald Green, hello. Oh, yeah. Post holing. Correct. Instead of postponing. I got you. Hello to Jefferson, Georgia. Kurt, good evening. Shane Lawson, I hear you. Working for a living gets in the way of living, don't it? It really does. Yep. Gray Wolf, same type of lung burning movement. You got that right. I mean, you start off good and it's like you ain't got enough air that quick, you know. Hiram, these folks that are creating these schools don't want to deal with older folks who may know more than them, and they want total compliance, and you have to hate on certain people. I understand what you're saying. But the question is, what's this school for? Well, I'm not saying any specific school, okay, but from my point of view, for what I'm doing for the Silver Wolves, is handing them knowledge they need. You know, yeah, I got to hire instructors to do it, but it's more about that. I realize that this is going to be for them, and they're passing it on to the next generation. It's not as far as a money maker as it is as a, to me, it's, for me personally, it's like a community service for me. Yeah, I have to charge money because I got to pay people to come in. We got to pay for resources and all. But at the same time, it's more of a giving back to the community and trying to share is what the way I'm approaching it, it's the way I think, you know. Oh yeah, Gray Wolf. Scott, good evening. My favorite river story is a bunch of floating cottonwood bark on a sweeper, stepped on it, bloop. We have the same thing down here. You know, you'll think that's a bunch of logs. They're sitting in the, you know, they're obviously on the bottom. You're going to say that's like a rolls. There's nothing under it. It's just floating, and all the leaves is matted up and got a little sand on it. You think it's a sandbar, and it ain't. Andy, good evening to South Georgia. Jerry, good. Yeah, flint and steel. In fact, I got a steel right here I got from a good friend Randy. I'm going to be doing a flint and steel video coming up. probably while I'm out at the gathering, I'm going to sneak away, try to sneak away once a day and shoot a video so that when I get home, I got some stuff to post, you know. That's the game plan. How old do you have to be a gray wolf? If you think you won, you are one. Isn't a hello, Dakota. Good to have you in the house, brother. I've had, when we did the first class, there was a young man in there that he just wanted the training and he understood. He came out. So yeah, it ain't no age limit. We don't cut it off at whatever, but it's focused for the silver wolves. Our oldest student was 78, and the average age was around 68 to 70. And so that's what it was. But we don't have an under limit. If you're 25 and you want to learn this stuff, maybe you want to learn it so you can pass it along to your grandfather or your elderly family members. I got no problem you being part of it. It's to pass along the information that's focused on them, you know, on their age group. I mean, you don't have to be a baby to be taught how to take care of a baby, right? So you want to learn how to work with old people and help old people stay active? Come on. I got no problem. I'm not going to say you're too young to be a gray wolf. So. Around the cabin. Well, thank you very much, sir. Oh, cool. Scott, you got your rapid deploy ridge line. Tongue-tied tonight. Cool. Also look at my advanced woodcraft playlist, and I'll show you how to make the rapid deploy tarp, which is folded up on a rapid deploy ridge line, so it just deploys like a curtain. It's a little trick. Yeah, true. If you work for a living, why you're killing yourself working? Jason, I have never reviewed the free soldier tarp. I'm sorry I haven't yet. Gray Wolf, dying ain't much of a living, boy. Yeah, good line. Yeah, Jeff, you want to know parts to have for a Remington. A hand, go get one or two extra hands. If you're going to stay with a traditional trigger bolt spring, get 3 or 4 of those fitted. And maybe one mainspring. And that should handle 90% of the stuff you're going to have with a Remington. Because Remington's usually, and a bolt, at least 2 bolts. But with that, you should be okay. Because long-term wear is going to be on the hand where it wears because it's got crud in it, whatever, and it's sanding it as you're working. And the bolt where it's going up and down, it may over time get crudded up or worn, etc. A new bolt will fix it, and a new hand will fix that. And the one mainspring and the trigger springs, that's the only thing that ever breaks on them. And you can get years and years of work without them ever breaking, but it's always handy to go ahead and just take the one that's working right now and put the one up beside it like the hand and just make them match, make it look the same, and then when it does, put it in the gun and make sure it works. And always err on the side of too long and bring it down to where it works perfect. So sooner or later, I'm going to do a series where I'm going to get parts and fit raw replacement parts to the Colts and the Remington to show how to do that, how to fit hands, how to fit stuff to it. I'll get around with that. True. Jeff Donnelly, welcome. Kurt Snyder, tell us about your hat. I always get the hat question. This is a 1990s Boy Scoutmaster of the Explorers Scoutmaster hat. It is a crushable felt hat that I got as a replacement hat for a 3X Stetson slouch hat that I had stolen in the early 90s. And I have worn this very hat since the mid 90s. I have an identical one, brand new, that's only been worn just to make sure it fit, up in the cabinet. So when this one finally gives up the ghost, that'll be a very sad day. I'll break that one out. There's an American hat company in America that's making a hat that looks a great deal like this, called the Outback. It's simply a slouch hat. So you may want to check with them. And it's crushed felt just like this, and etc. I think they're like $65 a piece, but it's an American company. I was talking to them back around Christmas, and everything's kind of going silent right now, so we'll see. Hopefully I'll get back in touch with them. I'm going to try to see that. I want to see if they're willing to do a discount or something. Talk to the company and say, look, I got a lot of followers that love this hat. If you're willing to give me some sort of discount code, I'll be happy to throw it out there to them and see. And we'll see. But $65 for a good hat that's going to last you 30 years is not that much, really. So, hello, Justin. Oh, you've been to the antique show. Uh-oh. B, I may have. I don't remember right now what you sent me. Oh, okay. I got you. BC, thank you very much. Dancers with Empties, good evening. Brett Johnson, good evening. Ah, 2020. Okay, that's one I hadn't looked at. AKUBRA. Several styles. Hello, Miss Pam. The common use for this, the name of this hat is slouch. SLOUCH. And they're still extremely popular in Australia. So a lot of the Outback stuff. Sometimes you see them listed as Outback hats or whatever. But like I say, when I was a boy, I remember in a elderly family member's home, there was a hat very much like this that's set up on a display on the mantle. And none of us kids were allowed to touch that. And that had been the Confederate slouch hat of her granddaddy when he had fought in the war. That was part of his uniform. He was in Confederate cavalry. And I remember that hat. That, somebody got this, somebody got that, and she got his hat. So. Stacy Sparks. Yeah. Whenever you're doing the 51s and things, hands are normally the thing that starts to wear out. If everything is nice and slicked up, the bolt will last a long, long time. As long as it's working slick and it doesn't ever get gummed and stuck in place because you didn't take it apart to clean it, and then that puts a lot of wear on it. Other than that, they last forever. The little spring on the hand sometimes gives up. It just depends on how well it was made. Diane, good evening. Mark Burris, good evening. Dakota, Blackie, can you do a military surplus survival challenge? Depends. Yes, I can, but depends what you talking. It was evolutionary. Yes, I did. I got that. I got it, and I will be sharing it soon. B. Okay. Yeah, Slash is a name given to the original campaign hat. Correct. Lonnie, hello to Western Pennsylvania. No, I do not. Do you use a head net to keep insects off of you? I don't. Down here in my south, where normally when the bugs are that bad and the humidity's so bad, putting a head net on is just stifling. It's worse than having the bugs. So we just slather up with bug spray. down here rather than wearing them. Now, up north, where you got the midges and stuff like that, I fully understand where they're coming from. But down here, it's like you flip a switch and suddenly it's 89 degrees, 90% humidity, and you're sweating like a pig. And just to put a head net on you, it's just like you're suffocating in them. You know, I've had a couple, thought I'd use them. But even in spring turkey hunts, when you're trying to wear a full face mask, it is just sweltering down here in them things. And so I'm afraid I can't speak a lot to that because I don't use them down here. Oh, cool, Paul. Glad that the old shotgun worked out well. Awesome. Great, Jonathan. I'll be officially arriving down there Thursday around lunch. Me and Bear should be rolling in together that morning. We're going to pick up firewood on the way in. That's the reason we're focusing on Thursday. I don't want to come out and then come back. But there is a lady driving in named Jennifer. She's driving in, I think, from Arizona, and she's planning on being in Wednesday. But I will be there on Thursday. Fred, hello to Louisiana. Yeah, Jeff Donnelly. But Sarge, it's a dry heat. Yeah. Max Payne, hello there. I believe I remember what you're talking about, but at this moment I haven't got a. I remember you did something like that, Gray Wolf, and I remember seeing or dealing or something like that. But right now I'm not clicking on it. Right now, I've just got so much stuff in the fire right now. I'm just kind of mentally fried, to be honest. I have been going nonstop since last Tuesday. Last night I didn't get to bed at 2:30 in the morning because I was up editing and doing stuff so I can have my 2 weeks off for my camp out and etc. So, and preparing for my classes and setting everything up. It's just, I'm mentally fried. Shane Lawson, that's correct. At one time, the Blue Gray Sutler, I believe was his name. He did Civil War stuff, and he carried these type of hats. But I don't know what the price would be. But I do remember that I believe it was called the North South or the Blue Gray Sutler. And he went toward the cavalry hats of the Civil War and the early Indian Wars, where they wore this type of hat. Oh, survival challenge: 10 items from your local surplus. It's not from there, you can't use it. Oh, okay, yeah, we could do something like that. Fred, yeah. Um, we always know when we have one of these wet, cold winters, the summer's going to be brutal down here in the South. So buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to have to ride this one. Right, Grey Wolf, I understand. Uh, I'm going to be doing a flint and steel type thing series is my idea of a couple of things I'm going to talk with using flint and steel. What stuff that I think works really well for making char cloth. How to get away from char cloth and natural things that you can create char. How to carry a char tin rather than a tin with a hole in it, but a different tin that you put the stuff in, and flint and steel. And like I said, I got 20 plus years of using flint and steel and rendezvous, and I'm going to talk about more in depth about flint and steel. Do a little series on flint and steel, and that I'm going to try to do it as quick as I can, but I've got so much stuff. If I could subdivide into 4 guys and each one do a job, I could get so much done, but unfortunately. Cool. Giuseppe, you can tell the dear lady that do not have to worry about that. This place is very clean, very open, and I have never had any problem here. Any wildlife that comes up, we will take care of it. It should not be anything. They are afraid of us down here, so they avoid us. So it's not going to be a problem. She will be perfectly safe and fine down there. Don't worry, she's going to have a good time. Steve Kingsbury, good evening, sir. Shane Lawson, I hear you. They're drying up because the military's selling all the surplus overseas rather than putting it onto the surplus. You know. Yep, horse food fungus, good stuff. Dances with Empties. Did you ever do a video on light, small, portable fishing kit? I know I did one several years ago where I did the soup can, put the stick in it, put the rubber lid on it, wrapped the line around the outside, and made a fishing kit to go inside of as a hobo fisher. But I do need to do that. I need to do a small little fishing kit and talk about where it's the snelled hooks and stuff like that, to have a fishing kit to carry as a survival slash just in case kit inside of a haversack. I will do that. Okay. Fishing kit. Work on that while I'm at the lake. Okay, we got that one down. Amadou, I hear you. Twister, hello. Fred, I hear you. Yeah. Oh, I had somebody in Nebraska one time where I was out there and talking about, oh my God, it's so terrible. The humidity is crippling. It was 37%. I went, really? And so we worked together out there for about 2.5 weeks, setting up a military radar. And then he had to come back to Alabama to get certified on something. He'd only be here for 1 week. And the temperature at home was 102 and the humidity was 93% that day when he got out of the plane. He said it was like he walked into a sauna. I said, welcome to Bama. Yep. He was not complaining about humidity in Kansas anymore. Well, Dylan, thank you very much. I'm glad that it's been of use to you. It's hazardous and prohibited, probably. I knew somebody that was trying to do bushcraft in a forest out west in Arizona, and you're not allowed to pick up pine cones. You're not allowed to do anything. You can ride through it and look at it. That's it. You know, I just Twister. Hello to France. Shane, we had a surplus place when I was growing up called MP Surplus in Pinkard, and it was awesome. I mean, from the time I was a young teenager, I would go over and I would get camping gear. It was World War II, World War One, World War II, and Korean War surplus, and Vietnam surplus was showing up. You know, and so I had canteens, I had packs, I had all kinds of stuff out of there, and it was cheap. An Alice pack was $4. Nobody wanted this stuff. Well, it was, not long after the war ended. Nobody wanted this stuff. And so it was cheap. And today it's the surplus place in Pinkard I go to. OMP Surplus finally closed up about like 2012, 2011, something like that. It finally went out of business after been in operation since the 40s. So I hated to see it go. It'd been like a childhood memory to me. D. Hunter, hello to Arkansas. Mark Burgess, I hear you. Well, you can make your own little bitty reels, and most time, to be honest, I don't need a reel. I'm just going to make like a cane pole. And so it works more effectively for what I'm doing, Max Payne, true. Okay, Loudermilk, good. How's she doing? Monica's knee replacement. How's she doing? Love me some outdoors. Yes, those oysters down there are big. In fact, we have a local restaurant down here that they send a truck every day down to the Gulf, which is only an hour or so away, and get like 150-pound sacks of oysters and bring them back up. And they both sell them in the restaurant they're part of, and they have in the back part of the restaurant, they have an oyster bar where they sell just oysters. And then they'll sell you a sack of oysters if you want like that. And when you come in and you're going to sit down at the oyster bar to eat, you need to specify whether you want whatever, or you want the big ones, or you want the little ones. Because if it's just whatever, they're just going to grab what it is. I've seen an oyster that big, as thick as my thumb. You know, you got to tear that sucker in half to eat it. They can be some big ones in there. My wife always says small ones. And so she's going to get the ones about like the size of a 50-cent piece or something like that. I've seen them almost as big as a pork chop before. Rebecca, hey, anytime. Glad you made it. Exactly. Dances with empties. Up there, you get lake effect with humidity because that water heats up. And you can get that kind of humidity up there, you know. Will, what is your favorite pipe and pipe tobacco? Ooh, I am very fond of a Peterson pack pipe. I also have a 2 dot and a 3 dot Sassini. I've also got an Alpha that was gifted to me from Grouch. You can't get them anymore. They came in from Israel. They quit importing them. If you put my feet to the fire, it'd probably be that Peterson pack pipe. That'll be, sits flat. My favorite tobacco is actually a home blend that I get made up at the tobacco shop. They custom blend for me called Devil's Plaything. But something very close to it that you can go buy at the store is called Black Duck. And so if you tell them, they ship those in little cans. It's about 80% of it. I just add more Perique and Latakia to mine. But it's a really good tobacco. I really enjoy it. White Oak. Hey, Blackie, are you ready for the gathering? Yes, sir. I am ready. D Hunter. Yeah. Cane pole fishing. Very relaxing. No big deal. And why did we get so complicated? It was so simple to just take a few crickets or a few worms or mealworms or whatever and just go down, just flip it out. You could tight line it or you could put a float on it. You know, we would do all kinds of little tricks, slowly towing it sideways through the water. We put minnows on. We used to catch minnows and put minnows on and then tow it sideways in the water so it would look like it was swimming and catch bass and stuff. It was so simple. And then we had, I need a rod, I need a reel, I need a this. And then you got a bass boat and 40 G and lures and everything else. Cane pole and that. If you're going to go fishing and enjoy it, just go with a hook and line and enjoy the moment. Don't have to be so technical, at least for me. And the older I get, the more I'm thinking about going less and less technical. In fact, I'm going to fish in the lake while we're at the gathering this time. I'm bringing my canoe. And I don't think I may bring one little reel. And I'm just going to take my cane pole and basic stuff. That's it. I may or may not bring my fly rod. We'll see. We shall see. John Latterman, glad she's doing good. Tell her we're thinking about her. Fred, yeah, I hear yard sale is a great way for A lot of poor people, a lot of times, generate a little income. Dance with empties. Do your oysters suffer from red tide down there? Occasionally, but they warn big time. We test constantly. In fact, 20 years ago now, there was a ship came into Mobile Bay from India, I think it was, and it dumped its bilge water. And within 18 hours of it dumping its bilge water, they had shut down oysters in the bay because they tested positive for something that had come out of that bilge water. And you couldn't buy any oysters down there for like 10 days while they were waiting for that to get on out, whatever it was that had come out of that bilge water from India, probably cholera or something. And but they do test, so yes, but at the same time, the odds of getting a bad oyster are pretty low. You know, our rule down here is the minute you taste it, if it tastes bad anyway, spit it out, rinse, and go to another one. It should not taste bad. When in doubt, spit it out, is what we say down here. Oh yeah, Prince Albert in a can. I hear you. Oh yeah, D about the Benjamins. You got it. Well, you're trying to show off for your friends. Well, yes, I've got my new pen reel, and yeah, we always got to try to one up everybody. I tell you, somebody that surprised me in the fishing thing, that was Dan Lutz. Oh, big old Dan Lutz. You know, he'd been on the pro bass fishing tour, and he had a big old bass boat, and he thought was going to have a career as a bass fisherman. And he was very knowledgeable about lures. And that was something I'd never thought about until we got up there and got to talking and found out what kind of fisherman he was. Yeah, Stephen, chewing back a can works good. Those little ones make really good fishing kits. Gray Wolf, yeah, a shortened bolo or a little short machete about that long can be a very effective camp tool. Not so great for filleting, but it can be used. And I have, Grouch, he toted a kukri and he toted a little short 18-inch machete, military machete, been cut down to 18 inches. And he can do amazing things with that little machete. I've watched him clean fish. I've seen him clean squirrels with that machete. So, yeah. Stacy Sparks. Only time I was ever called a Yankee was down in Dothan, Alabama. I hear you. We don't mean it as rude. We just mean you ain't from around here, are you? Yeah, lamb. That's exactly the fishing and stuff. It's become such a technical sport. I don't even watch it anymore. Yeah, Fred, you get rid of the fancy stuff and just go catch fish. It isn't fancy, but it works. Taxman, good evening. Jared, I know. Yeah, the Navy said you can't make side scan sonar, and the bass company said, hold my beer. Yeah, if rednecks want to do it, they'll come up with a way. Oh, cool. John, you got two brim down there. I'm thinking about I may tote my fly rod. I don't know. I don't want to get too complicated. Red Sorghum, good evening. Yeah, I mean, old cane pole, a can of worms. You know, we had an old bathtub, one of them old cast iron bathtubs, right? That's where the worms were. And we would feed them, put straw on top of it, potting soil type stuff, and put stuff in there. And we'd dig worms out. Then my granddaddy had 4 buckets that were mealworms, that were 5-gallon buckets. He fed and grew mealworms in. My Uncle Luther, he kept crickets. And so he had a big cricket thing. So we'd go up there and we'd swap crickets and stuff. And then just down the street from me was this lady's yard that had such deep leaves. I mean, it was like that deep on one side of the house. They just always piled all their leaves. And it was a breeding ground like you ain't never seen. No lie. 12, 14-inch earthworms, big as your thumb. And you thought it was a snake when you picked it up. These were huge worms. And we kept that a national secret. We would go down there and just, you know, do a little talking, and they'd say, "Go, you can get 5. 5 worms." Try coiling them worms up into a standard bait cup and see if you can get 3 or 4 in a bait cup. You're lucky. And of course, you'd cut them up in pieces, you know, but 3 or 4 worms is all you need, because when you got to the bank, you started cutting one up into pieces and you had 20, 30 pieces of bait. It was great. Dead Prepper, good evening. What's your favorite thing to cook in the bush pot? I would have to say that my favorite thing to cook in the bush pot is peach cobbler. I love my sweets. So, and yes, I did a video on how to make peach cobbler in a canteen cup. Same idea. Okay, hold on. Let me back up. I was reading and y'all took off. Hello, Mystery. Well, thank you very much for tuning in from England. Okay, Dylan. Blackie, you were talking about your fly rod a second ago. Could you do a video on fly rod fishing? I will, but now I'm going to tell you, if you're looking for a big fly expert, you're talking the wrong thing. I'm a splat fisherman. In English, that means that I was taught how to use a fly rod like an advanced cane pole. And so I do casts and stuff like that, but we're going for bass and brim. We're not interested in flies and stuff, little bitty flies like for trout. We don't have trout around here. And so I do cast some flies. I do other lures and stuff, and I do work it, you know, but at the same time, I'm not a fly fisherman. I'm a splat fisherman is what we used to call them. And a lot of times we use automatic attractable reels to get rid of the extra line right quick. But yeah, I will do that. Okay. Fly fishing kit, fly fishing, splat. Okay. Where does Blackie get his ideas? From you guys. White Oak. Any good catfishing in your area? Oh, yeah. All the rivers and a lot of the lakes around here? Yeah. Plenty of them. Oh boy, Fred, yeah, you should have a fish contest at the gathering using all found poles and natural bait. That'd be a good challenge. I will think about it, maybe next year, but I will think about it. Dances with empties. I thought Yankee was the term used for the Dutch back in the. Actually, it was. It was originally referred to the Dutch and stuff like that. Yankee was the way it was originally pronounced. And then it became a term because you got to remember most of New York and all of that and Connecticut was settled by the Dutch and the Germans, that upper part of Europe. And so the people south of there, like Alabama, 80% of the people were coming in here were from Ireland or Scotland. And so that was a nickname to refer to those people that were from that part of the world as Yangi, which meant Dutch, German, etc., that type deal. You got to remember, Germany only came about in the 1800s. It was a bunch of smaller kingdoms prior to that. It was only unified into Germany in the 1800s. So back in the 1700s, it was just one of many little names, you know. And so Yangi became that. And in the South, it was the northern side was Yankees because of New York. They're on that side, so they're all Yankees. See, World War II, the British called every American Yank for Yankee because, you know, the Americans are over here. The Yanks are over here. They called us Yanks. So it's just a nickname. We don't mean it to be rude anymore. We just mean we recognize you're from the North. And it's a different culture, different way of talking, different way of acting. You know, Southerners are very talkative. We never met a stranger. We'll walk up to somebody we've never met and start talking to them like we've known them our whole life. And this really puts off a lot of people like from the big cities like New York or Boston and stuff, because they're not used to it. And so, it's like y'all use the term rednecks or other terms to mean anybody from the South when that's not, true of the South. So it's just, a name. Okay, where was I at? Catfish, dancing, empties. Yankee, got you. Yeah, Shane Lawson. There is scholarships and there is things to go to college for fishing. Troy State University, right up here above me, had bass fishing on the curriculum. So if you didn't want to do PE or some out, you could do bass fishing. Okay. Oh yeah, Fred. All of us kids, the first reel I ever had was a Zebco 202. That was the kids reel. I never had a Snoopy reel. We're not here to play. You're here to fish for food. So I had a 202. Stacy Sparks, cool. Chris, Blackie, have you ever tried melting down an old lead roofing bolt to cast? I have melted those lead things like that. I have melted them in the past and made a ball out of them. Used to a lot of the plumbers would have a lead donut in the industrial applications that would seal up between like a steam pipe and whatever is a lead donut. That we'd get them, they'd be like 2 inches thick, that big round, have like a 6-inch hole in the middle of them, and it'd be pure lead, dead soft. Haven't seen one in a long time, but yeah, we did. Today they use all kinds of synthetic stuff. They don't use lead anymore. Andy Knight, I don't laugh. Zebco 11, Zebco 33 micro, those little booms, they do great, dude. I had a little Zebco 11, loved it for, especially for canoeing or something, real ultralight. It was great. And besides, when you got a little ultralight rod, any little fish feels like a big fish. Then it's a fight. Then, you go out there with a shark pole and try to catch a 6-ounce. Nah, get something ultralight. That way it's a fight. Can you land the big fish? Yes, but you got to be good. You got to have skill then. Before you just had brute force. Now you got to have skill. Oh yeah, briar smoke. Yeah. Okay. Patriot Preacher 43. Blackie, where are you originally from? My wife says you don't sound Alabama. I was born originally in Dothan, Alabama. I am about 40 miles from Dothan, Alabama right now. I have lived my entire life in this part of the South. My accent can change depending on the people I'm talking to. I can clean my accent up really well where I do not have such an overhanging thing. When I in military, uh, uh, military contractor that I was working for making radars and things, I'd have to brief people in Boston, New York, and stuff like that a lot of times on what we were going to do in assembling radars and stuff. And so I had to clean up my accent so I didn't sound so much like a hick. But I choose to sound as I do because that was my family, that was my people. My none of my immediate family around me, except for my sister, had any education, and so I had to be able to speak like they did for them to understand me. In truth, I have 10 years of college. I have 5 degrees, minor degrees, but I've got 5 degrees. But I choose to speak the way I do because it's who I am. I'm Southern, and I've got it. But I'll be honest with you too. When I'd show up with a $4 million radar up to Boston, MIT or whatever, I'd go, Hattie, I got your radar unit. Where you want me to put it? I'd crank it up, boy. Oh, I loved it when the engineers were like, oh, dear God. It was a lot of fun. Thank me later. When you get to South Carolina and the waitress calls you sweetie, you know you're heading south. True. Dear, darling, sweetie, baby, sugar. Just common ways of respectfully saying, being nice down here. Steve Lippy, good evening. Oh, Elrod, yeah, the Ronco pocket fisherman. Yes, those things. I had a bicycle and I had a Ronco hanging on the back. Yeah. Oh, Bessemer, yeah, up near Birmingham. Turtle D, yeah. Those Zepco micro reels were one of my favorite little small reels. It really was. True. Christopher Ugly Sticks. I have an Ugly Stick from 1976 when they first started making them. I ordered them out of an ad in the back of a outdoor fishing mag, and they shipped it to me. And the box shows up as like the size of a basketball box. It's about that deep, but that big, kind of flat. I went, this can't be my fishing rod. And when you open the box, they had coiled the rod around in a circle like you coil a whip and wired it closed. And they had a tag that said, "We mean unbreakable." And so I had to open it up. I've still got that rod and I'm still fishing with that rod. And I bought it in 1976. Don't try that with a modern one. They'll snap. But that first couple of years that they made them, they meant it. They would show demonstrations at events where they'd wrap it around a pole like a 4x4 and let go of it and it'd come back straight. They meant them things weren't going to break. Okay, maybe I am caught up again. Yay! Justin Coon. Trust me, at campfire he sounds Alabama. That's true. Mike B. Good evening. Don't change your dialect. Got it. Red sorghum, I hear you. Jeff Hanson, good evening. Mark Burgess, I hear you. Dale, I hear you. That's good stuff too. Patty Cakes, I hear you. Yeah. 10-pound line. A lot of times I'll run 8-pound line. And if we get those real finicky ones, more toward June or something, where they're getting kind of savvy to the fishing, I'll go down to 4-pound line then to try to blend it in even more so they can't see. Chris Evans, thank you very much. Gulf Coast Pine Belt. Blackie, did the Spanish have most of their settlements in southern Bama or more in the northern? The Spanish came in and set up at St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in America. It's over 300-something years old now. And then they made a chain of missions, i.e. forts with a church in it, 1 day's march all the way across, kind of follow a line like you see where I-10's going. And then about the time you get to Apalachicola, start curving up. And it crossed over to the Alabama side and went up to Chattahoochee River. If you look on the map and you look at along the border between Alabama and Georgia, there's going to be a place called Eufaula, Alabama. Just north of that is a place today called Trinity, Alabama. That was the farthest northern fort of the Spanish, and that's like the 1600s they built that. I've been up there. You can see the foundations of what had been the fort. There's nothing left in the foundations, but that was the end of it. So Spain went kind of down in La Florida and a little bit of the edge, but up in this area was just the natives, more or less. Spanish did interact, but we don't have a lot of the Spanish influence this far north. See? Dances with Empties, yeah. Drop lines, just something good in spring. You hook a line to it and let it sit there and work. Works really well. John Kennedy, good evening, sir. Yeah, what accent? Patty cakes? Chris Evans, thank you. If I didn't already say that, I won't say that again. Yeah, bush hooks. Hooking to a bush, putting it out there. Not technically legal in some places. You got to check what your laws are. Some people call them drop hooks, bush hooks, whatever. And as long as you're sitting there watching it, I don't have a problem with it. But people would throw lines out and go to work. And then when they came from work, they'd check and rebait their lines. It was like a trot line. See, they prefer you just set up a trot line because you can take that out easy. Whereas bush hooks are hooked to all the poles. And the problem with it is water level went up and people are coming down on boats and they're running into hooks. So that's one of the reasons they wanted you to use trot lines instead of bush hooks, at least here in Alabama. Okay, Jonathan, safe trip, brother. Mark Burgess, I hear you. There's variety of the accents down here. Plus, I live next to a military base. So growing up as a child, I had a heavy Southern accent. Plus, I was surrounded by military types who were speaking, they were from New York, they were from California, they were from wherever, and they'd been to Korea or Germany. So I learned to cuss in German and Korean and Japanese. By the time I was 10, I could cuss pretty good for that age. And because I was around so many multicultural, multilingual, you know. Briar smoke, yeah. The glass cores, they don't ever go away, but that outside will eventually give up the ghost. Jerry Donnell, I saw Bear earlier today, and I think he was going on a date tonight, so he might not be dropping in tonight. But Bear's going to be at the Silver Wolves, and then he's going to come back out to the gathering. He's going to play kind of like camp cook for us instructors a little bit at the Silver Wolf classes. So me and him had lunch today together. Patty cakes. Blackie, have you ever tried a hobo reel? I was just getting into that, and I'm not sure what would be the best wood to carve one out of. Patty, I make a hobo reel out of a tin can. Take the can, put a wood, I take an end of an old broom handle or something, put it in, put a wood screw up from the bottom, and take a relatively small can, tie my line to it, and then inside the can becomes the tackle box, see? And I put various lures, weights, hooks inside the can with that stick sticking up. And then I've got a plastic lid. Look around the dog food and cat food section, and they sell these little plastic lids that lock on so you can open up a cat food can, give out a spoonful or two, and put it in the fridge, right? You take that can, poke a hole in it, run it down on the thing, and you have a hobo reel. And so that's what I do to make a hobo reel. And I've done a video on it, and I probably need to do another video on it. But it works real well for casting. And with that can, I can just, like you do with that carved one. Carved ones are real pretty and do a great job. I just higher capacity and carry my tackle in it. So. Fred, I don't know about some states allow yo-yos and some don't. It just depends on the state. Washburn Billy, good evening. Stacy, thank you very much. And night night. It'll kill, good evening. Mark Burrs, I hear you. Patty cakes, glad to help. Blackie, what are your thoughts on the Soviet trench shovel for a camping survival tool? Very multifunctional. I keep one vehicle. Great tool. It really is. I carried a cold steel shovel, which is the cheap version of it. Although the Soviet, you had that titanium one, and for a while there, Dave Canterbury and them, I believe, were selling the titanium ones, which are super light, you know. But it's a very functional tool. I mean, it digs well. You can use it for 1,001 uses. It chops small brush and stuff well, so you can make shelters with it. And I have a German entrenching tool, which is a similar design but a lot heavier, which you got to make pick and matic on it. And then I've got another one, I believe, that's just a straight one like that. And when I need to tote, I have the old military folding. I have those two straight ones. And if I need more than that, we're toting the real tools then. That's full size shovel. Because if I need to dig Dakota holes, I'm going to be camping, I want to do a Dakota hole, and I don't want to have to dig it with my kukri or something, I'm going to use that. If we're going to be creating a ground oven to bake bread and stuff over a week-long camp, I'm going to bring, you know, that type of shovel to be able to bury it and make the ground oven so we can actually cook and bake and stuff like that. It's a great tool, very useful, and it's a very useful tool in so many ways. And having it in a vehicle is a real good idea. If you get stuck, you can help dig yourself out with it. Very few things can substitute for a shovel effectively. Gray Wolf, for your sewing kit, do you use a traditional housewife, wallet style, or something else? 99% of my sewing can be handled with fine thread and a single good needle, because all I'm doing in the field is repairing to get home. So if I tear a pair of pants, I need to just do a running stitch all the way up the tear, just hold the material together so every mosquito in the universe don't find that path to my butt cheek, because it will do it. So I've had people tell me, oh, it isn't that bad. I can take you to places. You tear a hole that big in a pair of pants and you'll beg me for duct tape or something, because it's like a miracle. Everything finds a way in that hole. So being able to seal up a pair of pants. I have cut the cuff off of a shirt before to sew up over a hole in a pair of pants because I was tired of ants and bugs getting into my pants. So, but like I said, I carry in my Exotac repair spool, I've got a good thread. And then on the repair spool, I've got it's the small spider wire that's the size of 4-pound test. It's like a sewing thread. And so I've got a fishing kit and I've got a sewing kit. And I'll give y'all a little behind the scenes peek. I'm calling out James Bender next week on a video, and I'll bring up that little sewing kit and stuff in it, but I'm calling him out. But you'll see the videos coming up this coming week. Travis, glad to help. Cordell, hello to Australia. Correct. One and only Nicole, the plastic water bottle does do a good job, especially if you put a lanyard on the back up so you can hold on to it real good and use your finger and cast, spiral up, bring the line out, spiral it around it, and start fishing with it. When you get done, take the line off the bottle and coil the line up into something. Works really well. Mark Burris, I get them from our local sewing supply. It's called a sail needle. Now, at one time, SRO, Dave Canterbury's shop for Pathfinder, Survival Resources Outfitters, they carried the sail needle, those big sail needles, which are great for repairing gear as well. I just go to my local Walmart, actually carries them usually, and go get a package of needles, and they got 2 really long, big eye needles in there, usually. Craft show, depending on where you're at, like Michael's or something, the big craft houses, a lot of times they'll have those needles as well, because we're using a lot of crafts for pulling wire and stuff through things, fine wire. Right, Chuck Miller, yeah, fishing kit made from an old chalk line. That works really well. James Bender did a really good video on that. Randy Robbins, do you like the shorter or longer handle one? Usually the shorter if I'm packing it. Brett, my kit is aluminum, and I do bake in mine. You know, uh, you don't have to. It's not super soft aluminum. There are different grades of aluminum, and you got to remember what they made that thing for was to be able to just pack it full of snow and put it in a blowtorch of heat to melt water like right now. And so it's fairly durable aluminum. You know, it doesn't melt easy. Will Rondell, what do you think of the Browning 22 takedown rifle? Very cool gun. That was Browning's design. You unscrew and take off of it. They're actually a decent little rifle. Browning is the one doing that now, but that design goes a long way back. Terry LaRue, Blackie, do y'all have gators in your large creeks and streams? Oh, yeah. If you do a search for the world record alligator, you will find it was taken in Alabama, not far from me, and it was 19 feet long and right at 2,000 pounds. Yeah, we got big boys down here. We got dinosaurs in lower Alabama. So they leave you alone. They don't see us as a food source. They really don't want to bother us. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be perfectly fine around them. They just want to do their job. So they're kind of a lazy animal. We're too big to mess with. So, but yeah, we do have them down here. Okay, Coy Dog, are you still packing the Buck 110? I got it right over on the shelf. It does still go to the field with me, you bet. I will drift around what I'm taking. You know, I will always have the Swiss Army knife on me. But then I'll start feeling guilty and I'll go, I haven't carried the Buck 110, and I'll carry the Buck 110 a couple of days. And then I'll shift over to the Granddaddy Barlow, and then I'll shift over to this and this. Hello, I'm at Pocket Knives Anonymous. It's been 2 hours since I last fondled a knife. I mean, me and knives. I've loved my knives. Chris Evans, any thoughts on the Woodland Molly 2 main rucksack? Found one complete. The Molly 2 is a good bag if you like the larger bags. If you like Alice packs, you're going to like the Molly 2. And the Army tested extensively and decided to replace with that Molly design. And it did well. So if you like Alice packs, I think you'll like the Molly. Bears in the house. Oh, getting in from church. Okay. Steve Kingsbury. Don't feed gators bread and stuff at the boat landings. Makes them associate people with food. True. Don't do it. He used to have that problem on Lake Juniper, where people would come up and the gators would be around the boat landing. And they'd take the fish they didn't want and throw them to the gators. Well, the gators got where they're sitting there like dogs going, got some? It got to be a problem down there. So don't, they figure out where food comes from pretty easy. So don't feed them. Terry LaRue, Blackie are far enough south to be in brackish water? No, I'm too far north for that. However, our rivers here, we do have mullet and stuff comes up in it to spawn every year. And like striped bass, stuff like that, do come in to spawn on my rivers. But we don't get redfish this far north. The river here by me, I'm 180 miles by river up from the Gulf. So I'm too far inland. Although we have had bull sharks up here before. So, you know. Yeah, I thought about that. It'll kill. I want to talk to, well, Grouch is a big fan of the fly rod. And me and him have had many challenges, debates with fly rods and canoes. He loves to watch me cuss. God, he does, because he'll be sitting there puffing on his pipe, one arm paddling a 17-foot canoe, the other arm flipping a fly rod, pulling fish out left to right. I'm fighting like a madman to stay upright. So yeah, I need to do that with him. Me and him sit down and talk fly fishing a little bit. Brett Johnson, yeah, it had that plastic frame to it. Tennessee Smoky, good evening. Yeah, don't feed bears and don't feed gators. Yeah, Shane, that is the one thing with Alice or any of the military bags. And I bring that up in Friday's video about having a half empty big old rucksack. You just got to keep putting stuff in it. And that's why you end up with something you can't pick up. So, guilty, done it. Fred, good night. Thanks for dropping in. Turtle D, have a good night and happy Easter. Jerry Donnell, can you feed them a few politicians? Cruelty to animals is a offense in this state. So you can't feed them to those. Now, feeding them to hogs, I don't know about cruelty to livestock, but cruelty to animals, but livestock, I don't know. Gray Wolf, funny how 10 things that don't weigh anything get together and become heavy. True. It doesn't look like it should weigh anything. But you're going to have to tote your water. Well, that's going to be heavy to begin with. And I have so many times seen people load up a pack and say, okay, I'm ready to go. And they tell me all the gear they got in the pack. I said, where's your water? They didn't pack any water, or they got one liter canteen and that's it. And it's 105 degrees and we're hiking 12 miles. Yeah. By the end of it, you wish you were toting a water bladder, or you'd be, 2 gallons of water becomes real light and you need it that badly. So, world's reputed largest green anaconda killed by hunters this week, 28 feet long, 440 pounds. Yep. That's something we talk about now that these animals are down here in Florida. When they say the biggest, do you mean the longest or the heaviest? Because the python is the longest. He can be 21 feet, but he normally weighs no more than 200 pounds. The anaconda can weigh up to 500 pounds. So which you talking bigger, long or thick? So the anaconda is a brute. And they taste like chicken. That's 400 pounds of chicken meat right there, Anything you can do with chicken, you can do with snake. Alexander, hello to West Palm Beach. Dances with Empties, all reptiles have the same taste. And so frog legs, alligator, snake, iguana, they all taste like white meat chicken, because chicken is a dinosaur, which started out as a reptile. But to be honest, whenever I've eaten snake or whatever, it doesn't taste, or alligator for that matter, it doesn't taste like white meat chicken. To me, it tastes like pork loin, but the meat feels like you're eating chicken breast, white meat. but the actual taste to me tastes more like pork loin to me. But it's just my taste buds, I guess. Yep, Terry LaRue, shortage of sand. Gulf Coast Pine Belt, you have a safe trip, and I hope your move goes well. Yep, reticulated python is the longest, anaconda is the heaviest. Tennessee Smoky, yeah, the Alpine German Alpine rucksack, 25 to 30 liters. Easy to overload it. It is, but you gotta. What are your real needs? What are you toting for need, and what you're toting for comfort, and what you're toting for just something to tote to have. Oh, it'd be nice. I may get bored. If you're getting bored out there, you're not doing something right. So, Garen, good evening. Tim Funk, hello. Yeah, true. Mark Burn, Mark, you had a 200-pound Burmese. Can't imagine twice that. Yeah. Uh, Back in the mid '90s, there was a guy down here in Dothan that they had a 300-pound um, python, banana yellow, and they would bring it in to the PetSmart store once a month. Four guys would get shoulder to shoulder. The front guy'd hold the head, and they just drape it across their shoulders. And the last guy'd hold the tail, so it formed like a semicircle to let kids and stuff see it. And she was sweet as she could be. As a female, she was as laid back, could care less, and let kids and stuff see such a big snake. And they're big, beautiful animals. They really are. They're doing their job. They're not evil, but at the same time, they taste good and they scare the snot out of a lot of people. So, you know, I think we ought to see if we can establish a breeding population in the Rio Grande River. Common Sense Homestead. Hello there to Missouri. Oh, Bear, Blackie, tell them about the BSA pack he showed you. He found a framed Boy Scout pack, zippered compartment on the front of it. It's not a yucca. It's one of the other packs that was very nice pack that he's going to try to restore and bring, where it used to have the leather buckles that the top flap secured with leather buckles and leather tabs, and I believe there's another set on it. And very nice pack. That's going to be a project of his to recondition it and get it back in service. Really nice. Christopher Evans, we can't hunt gators here in North Carolina. They're a delicacy. Terry LaRue, I've got to do something about my bedroll. It's 20 pounds by itself. Comfort costs. Go to a hammock, a whole lot lighter and more comfortable, in my opinion. For a long time, I carried a big old heavy bedroll. Then I went hammocks, and hammock is the way to go. My entire hammock setup doesn't weigh 3 pounds. And add an underquilt if it's cold. Don't have to have it if it's not cold. I can use a Wooby just on top or a bed sheet in summer, and be just as comfortable as I'm laying flat on a bed, because like that one wind I got, you can lay asymmetrical in it. So you put your shoulders to one side and your legs to the other side of the center line, and you're as flat as you're on a bed at home. You can lay on your side, you can whatever, you can't fall out of it. And a big advantage is in the heat of summer. Your heat is radiating off of you, so it's cool to sleep at night. Not so much on a ground pound, because that ground has had sun blaring on it for 12, 14 hours in Alabama. and it heats up the ground. I mean, I have put a thermometer on the ground before, and it showed 140 degrees on the ground because of the solar heating. You know, it's just holding heat, and for hours after the sun goes down, it's just radiating heat like a hot rock, and you lay there and just sweat rolling off of you. But getting up in a hammock, you're in an air column, and you cool faster. So you may want to look at hammocks. Tennessee smoke, yeah. As we get older, go about more about enjoyment than about. We've done proven we can do that. I toted 80-pound packs. Well, at least once. We know because they weighed it when we got back. My pack was 80 pounds. Why? You know. CF Martin, I don't see morel mushrooms down here and even in Florida. Now, there may be people local to me that there may even be some. I'm not sure. But I know that it is not something that is talked about down here nor harvested down here. I think that's more of a northern thing that we just don't. I know my friends in Tennessee do get morels, but this far south, if I've seen one, I don't recall it. Technique, hello. Christopher Evans, squirrel and rabbit recipes. We're getting started raising rabbit meat. Squirrel, if they're young, fry them and cook them as they are. If they mature, then you want to parboil them. Put them in boiling water for like 15 or so minutes, and then take them out, pat them dry, and fry them. It makes them a whole lot more tender. Rabbit, I like rabbit with potatoes and stuff like that in a stew. But you can do rabbit and rice, squirrel rice and gravy is real good. You know, that's all I think of off the top of my head. Yeah, Mark Burgess, that snake was 18 feet long. My wife used to drag her around like a jump rope. Ate 20 huge rats at a feeding. Yep. How are they putting Cayman and Toco de Grande? Yep. Gray wolf, what's the difference between a rabbit and a hare? A hare is much larger than a rabbit. That's like gray squirrel, fox squirrel. Hare is about a pound heavier or more. We don't have hare down here. That's normally a northern type thing. Snow bunny is a type of hare. You know, so up there in your part of the country, you have hares. A little bitty small rabbit. The only thing we have comparable down here in the south is a swamp rabbit. And it's just an unusually large rabbit that, I mean, rabbits this big on average. This one is this big on average. You know, it's like a size larger. You can just tell by looking at him. We call them swamp bunnies. But you never find them around cultivated fields. It's always in a deep, dark, no place that there ain't no predators get in there. So, Dead Prepper, do you use an ultralight hammock year round? I can use mine year round. Yes. My ultralight that I use from One Wind doesn't have, that's the one I carry in my haversack. My camping hammock is the same size, but it has the mosquito net on it, is really the only difference. And it's more bulky because of the mosquito net. But I have used that hammock all 4 seasons. My record of taking it coldest was 2 years ago when we were on Duggar Mountain, and it got down to 4 degrees up there on top of the mountain because it was 24 degrees at the town at the bottom of the mountain, and we're much higher up. And so somebody in camp checked the thermometer right after sunrise, and they said it was 4 degrees that morning, and I believe it. So I've done it with underquilt and a big warm sleeping bag on top and wearing proper layers. I have camped in that hammock all the way down to 4 degrees. And my friend Dan Lutz went down to 10 below zero on his. So, because he was up in northern Ohio and decided to try it out. The ultralight is the same design. It just don't have the mosquito net, but it does have all the places to hook up the underquilt to it and etc. Steve, which one wind do you have again? I have the 11-foot hammock, and I have the ultralight pack hammock that's got, the whole thing's about that big. And then the standard camping one I carry is the 11-footer, and it's about this big, and that's the size of my main camping hammock. So I'm 5'10". I'm 185 pounds, and I fit just perfectly fine in the 11-footer. If you're bigger, you may want to go for the 12-footer. They make a 12-foot hammock, and the 12-foot double wide hammock was what Dan Lutz used, and he was 6'8" and right at 400 pounds, and it swallowed him. He could lay down and have plenty of room all the way around him. And I got him one of the top quilts, the extra long top quilts, and that swallowed him. He had always complained he could never find a sleeping bag that fit him. It all come up to about here on him. They just were made for mortal men and not made for such giants. And so I got him that. It's a two-piece that hooks together to form the top quilt. So the top half you can take on and wear like a great coat around the fire at night for like a wrap. And the bottom half snaps on. You put your feet into it like a sleeping bag. And Dan was using that all the way up. In fact, his last camp out, he used it. I know for a fact because I was camping like 12 feet from him. And he always sang the praises of the One Wind stuff for the durability, the price, and they do really, really good. Terry LaRue, put a Prusik nut on your ridge line, a Prusik cord up on your ridge line, and put a toggle, a wooden crossbar, something you can grab a hold of if the side is quote, quote, too high. And what you want to do is be able to reach up there and you can pull yourself up to get your legs over. What I do is just grab the side, grab the toggle, pull up on the toggle, and pull the hammock further underneath me so my legs come out. I've had hammocks like that. The sides were way up here. It was a bear to get in and out of it because you couldn't ever, you can't roll over on your stomach and throw a leg over. And when you try to come out this way, you can't bend enough. And so that was how I learned to get in and out of a big one like that, big size. Yeah, correct. Jackrabbits out west. Dances with Empty. When does bug season start in Alabama? Oh, wait, any minute now. They haven't yet. And if we can just make it, I'm hoping we'll have a little bit of a cool snap over the next week. I don't want it to get cold, but I want to be just a little cool so that we have the gathering. And then middle of April, they'll hatch out by the billions and we'll be done. Hoping. Because when they decide to hatch, they're just clouds of them. But it has not done it yet. And it will vary by the weather. This year, I'm hoping it'll last 2 more weeks. And then we'll get it. Then they can do all they want. We'll be done. Tim Funk, have you ever tried a flat bottom haven hammock? I have been into a bridge hammock, which has a crossbar on the either end up top, and you crawl under the bar into the hammock before, but I have not tried a haven, but I have been in a flat bottom hammock before that's suspended like that. And they can be very comfortable, but I had to go in and out at the foot. I couldn't go over the side. So. Yeah, March 31st or April 1st. Boom. Yeah. Gray Wolf. Anyone else eat marmot or groundhog? Don't have them a lot down here. Pam is pointing out, guys, that on the One Wind, you can sleep double. Her and her hubby get together in one of the One Winds. They have that kind of weight limit. The demonstration that I asked and they demonstrated was that the One Wind hammock is rated to 1,000 pounds. And they demonstrated that because I was trying to get talking to the manufacturer about it, because I was trying to get Dan into a hammock. Well, Dan's 400 pounds, and most hammocks are rated for 350. And so I asked, what is the weight limit on the one wing hammock? And she didn't understand. And I said, okay, what's your native language? And she said Mandarin. So I went to Babelfish and I typed it in and had them translated into Mandarin, and I handed it back to her. And she said, oh, we test. And so she said, give me about 30 minutes. I said, okay. Well, she came back on and she's doing like a live to me. And they were out in the factory, and they put it up between two concrete poles inside the factory and rolled up with 100-pound sacks of cement that they had. And these two guys were not being gentle. They were just throwing it into the hammock until they put 10 100-pound sacks. It's 1,000 pounds in that hammock. And she turns around the camera and she goes, is that enough? Yes, ma'am, that's enough. Now, you may catch that out on the internet somewhere, but no sound. That's because when I handed it off to Dan, Dan shared it, but he didn't do the sound because she was talking to me. And when I screen captured it and gave it to him, it didn't take the sound with it. But you see her turn around and go, is that enough? She's asking me, is that enough? The ridge line is 1,800-pound strength Dyneema, and the straps are 2,500-pound strength. You ain't falling. So you can sleep double if you that chummy. Yeah, Gray Wolf, we always seem to have a cool snap 1st of April. That's the last cold snap. Is along the 1st of April in there. So in the next 2 weeks, historically, we'd have a little cool snap where we'd have a little rain and the temperature would drop, and we'd have winter-like conditions for 2 or 3 days, and it'd warm back up. And then after that, usually the mosquitoes hatch by the billions. So Chuck Miller, when I lived in Pittsburgh, we got snow in June for real. I believe you. You know, that's the thing. We in the northern part of the country, y'all deal with cold. And so most of your year is deal with waiting for it to warm up. Down here in the south, we deal with hot, waiting for it to cool off. And so it's kind of like we're on opposite sides of the thing. It's kind of like you guys up north when you're waiting for the ice to break. That's us in August. When there's not a breath of air moving, the humidity is so bad, the air is so thick, you can feel it going in and out of your lungs. It's like water flowing in and out of your nose. That's how thick the air is down here. And you're just so tired of the summer heat. You're just so sick of it. And then sometime in 1st of September, middle of September, whatever, there'll be that one day, one night, there'll be a cool whatever hit, and the temperature will drop 10 to 15 degrees. And it's been 90 for 3 months plus every day, if not 100, or etc. And you get that night, it drops down to 68. And we all seem to run out on the front porch and just, dry, cool air. And it's like, yes, we made it. We made it. We made it through it. And I've heard people talk about being in the far north, waiting for the ice to break on the rivers and everything. It's like, isn't it? And then it finally breaks. And it's like, yes, we made it. You made it through the winter. Yeah, true, Gray Wolf. I had a good friend of mine that he spent many years in Alaska as a guide. He'd go up there and he would work with a brother-in-law guiding people on moose hunts and stuff like that. And his brother, the guy that owned the guide service, he would take his wife every year to Hawaii. You know, they'd have a week in Hawaii. That was her thing. And he figured out it was cheaper to fly from Alaska to Hawaii than it was to fly from Alaska to Florida. So he'd every year put her on a beach, let her run around. Christopher Evans, Blackie, have you ever seen a hammock hung with regular old 550 paracord? Yes, sir. And I've done multiple videos of me doing that very thing. I make jungle knots. I take like a 25 or 30-foot piece of military grade real 550, not the cheap crap they're selling at Walmart. Real 550, double it in half. Start at the bend and go up like 6 inches and tie an overhand knot. Space out about 6-8 inches, do an overhand knot. Space out and do that all the way to the end. You go up to the tree, you throw the line around the tree and just pass it through itself between any knot. Pull it tight, come out and take a carabiner on the end of your hammock and clip it to that line. And then go to the other side and do the same thing and clip it. You can be up or down in a minute. And I'd carry a little small hammock, open hammock, and use 550 paracord as my anchor lines. And then I'd use that line for about a year, and then I would retire it and turn it into a utility line for gathering firewood or whatever, and I'd make a new set. So a lot of times I'd alternate colors. So black paracord this year is the lines for the hammock. And when I retire it, I go to green line. And so now I know all the green lines is for the hammock. The black line is the junk line. And then the next year I would do like a blue line. And then I'd go back to black. And that way I wouldn't, is that the old or the new one? I just retire them after a year. And many years I hung a hammock that way. Still will if you give me a chance. Steve Kingsbury, 2 seasons up north, winter and road repair. I hear you, brother. Yeah, well, if we got 2 in the south, sweating and shivering. Woo, Danson's empty. Yeah. 7.5 over 12 and turn it into a 12 gauge. Awesome. Blackie, have you thought about doing a permanent survival shelter video? You mean like making a permanent camp type deal? I have, and me and Bear have talked about that on his land. Just go back in there to one of those little spring heads he's got way back out away from the hunting area and everything else, and set up a little small permanent camp back there. I don't know. We'll see. But I have thought about doing it. Gray Wolf, that's correct. It's the line from the shoe. In fact, the video that I just did, I was coming through yesterday, and I stopped at the surplus place the other day, actually, when I went and was double checking the route that I gave everybody to get to the gathering and to get to the classes about coming in through Oppen, etc. And I went by the surplus place there in Sampson, and they've got bags right now of where they've cut the shroud lines off of cargo parachutes. And a lot of those military parachutes were only used once. And then they just cut all the line off and put them in a bag. So you got a bag this big of military grade 550 paracord. Now, each one of these links in here is only going to be like 25 feet, 30 feet, something like that. But you get a bag this big of it for $20. There's like 1,000 feet in there of cord. I mean, it's a lot of cord. I bought one of them when I went to the Pathfinder gathering in 2016, and everybody in camp, we sat there and made donuts, where you make the paracord donuts out of them. And I bet I ended up with 100 paracord donuts. And that was for one $20 investment. I still got a ton of that 550 paracord up there, military grade. And they're only going to use it once, and then they're going to cut it off that chute. Because it deployed, it did its job, and they ain't going to risk multi-million-dollar equipment on a bad chute. So just re-rig it from the ground up. They're not going to trust them lines. Them lines have done had one shock. That's enough. Dances with Empties. The chute ain't waterproof. You see a lot of the bushcraft over in Europe where they'll put up a parachute to be like the classroom area because it's wet over there. Well, if you pull the chute tight, it'll act like an umbrella and the rain will drizzle onto it and run and drip off and not necessarily go through. But the material itself is not waterproof. And so if you try to use it like a tarp, rain will come through it. It'll hit and kind of splatter through it in a mist because the parachute was designed to let air pass through it. It's not like plastic. And so when it deploys, poof, it's got a hole there, but let air pass through it because if it doesn't, it'll tear or bust. And so the reason I say that, a friend of mine got a cargo chute and thought he'd make a teepee. And he spent all the time and he sewed a teepee. And he put that thing up there and it would rain right through it. You know, the chute just ain't waterproof. So. Chris Evans, I've been testing alternate cordage types. What do you think is the smallest bank line sufficient for poncho ridge line? That itty bitty stuff right there. That is tiny. I don't remember the number. I think it's 12 or maybe it's number 9. I think it's number 9 because there's 9, 12. I got a big shipment a couple of years ago from Bombproof Bushcraft. And I think I have Madison's card right here. Hold on. In my little card thingy. Because, yes, Blackie keeps a card thingy. There it is. Bombproof Bushcraft. Madison Pool. Right there. Contact Madison and say what size. And they got all the sizes. And it's from the American company that makes them. This ain't Chinese stuff. This is American stuff. And it's actually tarred bank line. And that little bitty thing right there, I think it's got like I want to say it's like an 80 or 100 pound strength, which is more than enough. If you're looking for an ultralight, rig it up, you know, and leave it rigged and not have a big bulky cord, it's more than enough to handle a ridge line. Because by the time that cord snaps, the tarp's tore anyway. So you should be fine with that. Garen, wouldn't parachute cloth make a good hammock? The cargo chutes, yes. You can make stuff out of them. It's a ripstop type nylon. If you can find one, give it a try, you know. Oh no. Yeah, that you dropped it and it dinged the blade. That's bad. Oh boy. Gulf Coast. Blackie, do you think you can make a New Orleans style banana Foster bread pudding in an Army canteen cup? Possible. Let me think about that. Yeah, I'm in theory, I think it can be done. But doing it so it doesn't burn or it doesn't collapse, that's going to be the trick. Heat control is going to be the big thing. Let me think on that a little bit. Yep, Brett Johnson, you're correct. Thin and strong cordage fishing line. In fact, in one of my videos, I made up I've got the ultralight shelter that One Wind does. It's a big tarp that folds to become like a ling. And I took saltwater fishing line that someone sent me a supply of, I think 150-pound test. White line, got a spiral black on it. And I went ahead and rigged up Prusik knots and everything and made a ridge line hole set and left it attached to that so that it would stay inside my haversack. And you're right, fishing line can be used for those type things within reason. Bank line's a better choice if it's going to be used over and over and over again a lot. Fishing line is known for its strength, but it's not necessarily known for its long-term durability as far as being kinked and unkinked over and over and over again. Fishing line does tend to get brittle over time. That's when they tell you if you fishing, you need to change the line every so often. Whereas bank line is designed to be there forever, basically. So hopefully, it'll work out. Oh yeah, Gray Wolf, you got your income taxes. You done hit the cold steel challenge. Wow. Tim Pierce, good evening. There you go. True. $100 invested, you're good to go. And a lot of those, if you decide, nah, I don't want it, they sell well on eBay. If you decide you don't want it, you can recoup some of your money out of them, especially the tomahawks. They do really well. And the Hudson Bay Hawk's a nice tomahawk. I've got the Trail Hawk and use it. And I got so many cool tools, so many cool toys. And you start feeling guilty. You haven't toted the hatchet in a while. Well, I've toted my kukri. I know that, but you haven't toted your hatchet. Now, have you toted the tomahawk lately? Have you toted the axe lately? Hurry up and create a bag of holding. We're at a D&D where you had a portal hole that was inside of a bag. And you opened it up, and it was a 10-foot square room inside the bag that you could put anything in there that would fit inside a 10-foot square room. We need to invent that because I would be taking so much fun gear to the field. Okay, this our K5, cool. The Blackbird of Holding, yeah, that'd be cool. Man, I come out with that thing, I'm set. I had a 20 millimeter ammo can that back in 1996 I sealed up with ammo and knives and a little bit of gear in case the world went stinky. And that was in 96. And in 2016, I decided to open that can up. And I went and got that can from where it was at and opened it up. And one of the things I had in there was the Cold Steel SRK and San Mai, brand new, never used. I'd put it in the thing. And so when I pulled it out, the only thing that had decayed on it was the snap. That little bitty old nylon went across. The snap had deteriorated and fell apart when I went to pull it apart. But that knife was perfect. It never been used. And all the other stuff in the can, the ammo and everything else was perfectly usable. I shot it, made sure it worked. But I figured after 20 years, it was time to dig it out, take a look at it. And it was perfectly fine. Of course, I refilled the can with other things for the world go to stinky. And so it'll be there. So let's see, 2046. No, 2036 will be the next time I open that can up. So we'll see what I discover in there. But I forgot about having that cold steel SRK in there. You know, and of course my brother-in-law, he likes cold steel knives and he likes SRK. And here's a San Mai SRK. They ain't made them in an awful long time, and it's virginal, brand new, never been anything. I touched up the edge before I put it in the can, and I gave him that as a present. Said, "Here you go." No, Chuck, you're too late. Like I said, I done gave it up. Jerry Donnell, where's the can? Now, why would I tell you that? Oh, no. Back in the 1980s, Cold War, we all thought that we were going to be at war with the Soviet Union. That movie Red Dawn that came out with Patrick Swayze was based upon something in reality, because back in the 1960s, we had trained people from Belize, which is part of Britain, part of the English influence down there on the very bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. You look at that swirl up, that's Belize, where it cups up. Over here is Mexico, and that little piece that goes up, kind of like pointing up at Cuba, that's Belize. And we had trained anti-communist forces to go down there and fight the communist insurgency that was going on in Central and South America in the 70s and early 80s. And they had captured in a raid a Russian, a Chinese, a North Korean, and something else. They'd all been killed in the raid, but they were there to advise some big thing. And one of the things they got out of them was in the papers was the Yucatan Doctrine. If you'll do a search, you'll find it. And it was brought up by Gorbachev back in the 60s as a way of conquering the West. And it was to destabilize Central and South America, turn them communist, then get Mexico to turn communist, and put 60 divisions along the southern border down there, and then attack Europe. That way, if they went, we'll invade the U.S. If they don't, we'll conquer Europe. And that was the Yucatan Doctrine. The movie Red Dawn was based upon what had happened there, how they were supposed to attack us, cutting the passes in the Rockies and cutting us off at the Mississippi River. And that was part of that idea. We thought that was real, so we learned how to stick stuff back, and we thought it was going to be like the movie Red Dawn. And so there were things that got planted for another day in places so that you could go get them if life went sideways, because we didn't know what was going to happen back then. And that can I'm talking about was one of those cans that I had put down. So just in case, after 20 years, I went back and got it. Yep. Yep. It's funny how fiction becomes reality, isn't it? You know? It's about time for us to quit. You know, talk like I just said, how fiction becomes reality. Go back and read the book Walden Pond. Don't read it as a political thing. When he starts babbling, flip. He's going off grid is what he's doing. He's leaving his society and going off grid. He found a place. He went and got materials, traded for it to build his shack. How cheap could he build a garden? How cheaply could he live and be completely independent with just a little bit of here and that without having to rely on a true job? And read Walden Pond as our modern people looking now at somebody going off grid. And that was in the late early 1800s, excuse me. And then the second part when Jules Verne wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he's writing about a submarine, a nuclear submarine. You realize he wrote that book in 1851? We wouldn't have a functional submarine that could do what was in that book for a century. Yet he wrote a book about that. Fiction can become reality. George Orwell. That's all I'm going to say on that. Well, guys, now remember, I will not be doing a live for the next 2 weeks because I will be doing the Silver Wolves class, and then I will be doing my gathering. So the next 2 Thursdays, I'm going to be busy. The next time that I will be doing a live will be the 18th of April. Okay? So, guys, thank you very much for everything, all the support. Really, I really do appreciate it. They will be Blackie, is that bridge collapsed a main shipping artery? Yes, that's one of the major export places for container ships on the East Coast. Y'all be safe. Love all of you. Thank you so much. Till next time, guys. Be safe.